Welcome back here with Goldberg. Today I'll be talking about the gig economy, which is really a fancy term for being an independent contractor as opposed to an employee. Now, the great libertarian Harry Browne was a big fan of this. In fact, he claimed that he fired all his employees and replaced them or made them independent contractors because he said it was better for everyone. I somewhat dispute that. Essentially, when you're an independent contractor, instead of being a proper employee where you have their benefits, you're in their structure, they take money out, you're basically on your own. You have to go do that for yourself, find health care, find or set up a retirement program, and you have to budget your taxes throughout the year such that you're ready to pay because you're not going to have it taken out from every paycheck. I have heard horror stories, by the way, especially dudes in trades who didn't quite understand this. So just be aware of that. It's not all bad, just to be clear. I know I'm not a big libertarian fan, but nevertheless, being a 1099 can work in certain instances. So let's just quickly run down. Here's a IT worker pretending to do some kind of work. If you are, let's say, a software developer or a graphic designer and you just are independent, you're working remote, you make your own hours, maybe you create your LLC, if you can bill out, you've got a decent product to offer, you might make a lot of change, but you don't have to deal with clocking in, being in the workplace, reporting to a boss in the same sense. So that can be a benefit. You got your home office deduction, all that jazz. It can also be a good route if you are a tradesman because you can write off your tools, your work vehicle, a lot of other things using that business model. So that's where being a 1099 or the gig economy, which it's not exactly a gig because it's more of a high skilled approach, that's where it can work. At the same time, when we're talking about lower skilled stuff, this is where it becomes murkier as to whether the independent route is actually beneficial. So that would be obviously delivering for Uber or picking up people, dumping them on the side of the road, crazy taxi style. Because the old model, you usually had a fleet of taxis like Yellow Cab belonging to a specific firm, and so they have a lot more responsibility for it. The argument behind independent contracting is put it all on the employee. The costs go to the employee as opposed to the employer, which just runs this kind of loose exoskeleton. So people condemn the old taxi system for being corrupt, the service wasn't as good, but then you have Uber where you are now putting your own vehicle up, which means wear and tear. You are covering the insurance. You have to deal with the risk of an accident potentially. You are obviously paying for your gas. Some of those things can be written off, but if it's your personal vehicle, you are probably shortening its lifespan just to be able to work this job. And are you going to make enough money? You've heard the things, oh, I made 90 grand doing Uber, but it is on the basis of chasing the market. What are the busy times? Are you willing to take enough, and how many hours do you have to work to make up a decent amount of money? These are all different questions. Now, recently, Goldberg attempted to just try out the gig economy as a driver, not because I need the money, but more of an interesting cope, because the alternative is that I go to a bar or a restaurant when I really have nothing to do and I spend a bunch of money and say, what the hell am I doing here? I'm going to do another video on that. Don't worry. Uh, just calm down. So, what has been my takeaway from the limited experience I had? Again, I haven't done Instacart, haven't done Amazon Flex, so if you guys have experience with those, do let me know. I mainly have done Uber Driver and DoorDash, so this is what I can tell you about that background. So, the first delivery I made was one that I shouldn't have, and that I came out of a store, turned on the app, and I was only 100 feet away from the restaurant, so I was like, oh, that's pretty good. But as I'm zooming in to see what the destination is, it hits accept. So I said, oh, this was screwed. I'm not going to back out now. I take this. It's almost 10 miles driving out into the country. And granted, at least it was a nice day. Got to see the cows doing their thing. But it's this little hole in the wall neighborhood. And the Clarence, he doesn't even say thank you, anything like that, just takes the food. His kids were like, oh, hey. They thought it was the coolest thing, I guess, being getting a delivery, and there was no extra tip. So it was about $4 to go almost 10 miles. And obviously on the way back, it's the country, so you're not going to get another order. So that was a total loss. I don't think I would take anything that is a 20-mile round trip unless I'm getting a minimum of 30 bucks because at least $15 um, each way. And that might seem a little bit, I guess I'm stricken with avarice, but I am a Care Bear after all. You have to be careful about that stuff, though. There was another one I got the other day where it was like less than $3 and they wanted you to go 6 or 7 miles. I'm not doing that. I mean, literally, it's just a loss unless you just want something to do. Then I delivered to this kind of high-fangled, rich neighborhood. That wasn't too bad, although the fast food restaurant where I was picking up, they screwed up part of the order, these silly teenagers. And after that, did another delivery to more of a middle class type neighborhood. That was the best. They actually tipped well. So you will have to decide the route you're going. I did a delivery the other day, which was to an apartment complex, and the dude didn't put the unit numbers. Then I had to text him. I was like, people, just use your brain, right? But it's not terrible in that if you get the ones that are, let's say, just a mile or 2 miles, but you get at least 8 or 9 bucks. Yeah, that's perhaps if you have some free time. But as far as having to rely on it, in my area, you couldn't make a living because there's just not enough business. And if you go to maybe in a bigger city, it would be a better state of affairs. But I think the problem is they're not really paying you for the distance you're driving. They're just paying for a percentage of the order, which often leads to you being kind of screwed because if you want to take everything, right? And then, of course, with some apps, if you're not accepting enough, your availability goes down, which means you're not going to get as many opportunities to make decent money. I should note another app I've tried is Roadie, which is more of delivering packages, not so much food, and is not consistent at all. Like I delivered some stuff from a craft store. This was a couple of years back, actually. Not a bad experience. Again, relatively short distance. But where you really make money, if you've got some kind of truck or SUV and you pick up from one of those hardware stores, sometimes you might get it. Like there was one the other day. I didn't do it because it was too far out of my range, but it was like 20-mile round trip. Ended up being 35 bucks, which is pretty good. And you didn't need necessarily a big vehicle. It was just probably a larger box. So that stuff can work. One of the best, though, that is more consistent would be picking up medications because those you might see, oh, it's 2 miles and you make 25 bucks, but it's a lot more stringent, like the process. You can't just grab it and take it to a person. You've got to follow the steps because usually you're delivering to maybe a assisted living home or that kind of thing where obviously if it's something issued just to that person, you have to make sure that it's not getting in the wrong hands. So yeah, if you have a high skill, especially in computers or trades, being an independent contractor isn't too bad. As far as just trying to make a living delivering groceries or delivering food, maybe some of you are going to disagree. I don't think it's a very good idea unless you're just trying to supplement. Like Brother Amr had talked about, he broke it down. It seemed like he was at best breaking even or losing money based upon the repairs to his car, the gas, whatnot. I'm sure there's a way to really crack the code, but again, the downside is you might be kind of controlled based upon what the market is and do you want to work enough hours to make an adequate amount of money. Now, it could be you hit a really busy part, during dinner time or in the morning, and then you can make enough just there. I haven't quite tried doing that because the area I'm in, there aren't all that many orders. But let me know what you guys think. I would not advise being an independent contractor, but again, if you have the right skill set, it might be better than being a regular employee.